Karen Westbrook stood on her perfectly manicured lawn at 6:47 am, clutching her HOA violation notice pad like a weapon of mass destruction, when she witnessed the unthinkable. Her neighbor Mike Santos was installing a pool cover without HOA approval. Her coffee mug shattered on the concrete as her jaw dropped, sending ceramic shards skittering across her driveway like tiny landmines of fury. "Excuse me!" She shrieked across the fence, her voice reaching a pitch that made 3 dogs in the neighborhood start howling in harmony. "What do you think you are doing?" Mike looked up from his pool equipment, squinting in the morning sun. Closing my pool for the winter, like normal people do." Karen's face turned the exact shade of the emergency red violation stickers she kept in her purse. This was it, her moment. After 18 months as Willowbrook Estates' most dedicated HOA board member, she'd finally caught someone in a flagrant violation. The pool cover was clearly navy blue, not the approved ocean mist color specified in Section 47B of the Community Guidelines. "That cover is not regulation blue," she announced, whipping out her measuring tape with the precision of a gunslinger. "And you didn't submit Form 23C for seasonal modifications." Mike stared at her like she'd just spoken in ancient Sumerian. "Karen, it's a pool cover. It's temporary." "TMPORI?" Karen's voice cracked like a teenager's. "Everything in this community is permanent until properly documented and approved through the appropriate channels." She stormed back to her house, her sensible flats clicking against the pavement like an angry typewriter. This was bigger than a simple color violation. This was about respect, authority, and the sacred covenant that bound their community together. Mike Santos had just declared war on everything she stood for. 30 minutes later, Karen emerged from her home office armed with a thick manila folder, 3 different cameras, and her lucky citation pen, the one she'd used to write up the Hendersons for their unauthorized garden gnome collection. She marched across the street with the determination of a general leading troops into battle. "Mr. Santos," she called out, positioning herself strategically at his property line. "I'm documenting this violation for immediate review by the HOA board. You have 48 hours to remove that non-compliant covering or face escalating penalties." Mike was now floating on a pool noodle, deliberately ignoring her. This only fueled Karen's righteous fire. "I'm also filing a complaint about your blatant disregard for community standards," she continued, scribbling furiously. "And I'll be recommending a formal hearing to address your pattern of non-compliance." She snapped 17 photos from different angles, each click of the camera shutter sounding like a small victory. But as she reviewed the images on her phone, something caught her eye that made her stomach drop like a stone into deep water. Diane pulled out her tablet and swiped to Karen's submitted photos. "So here we have Mike's pool cover violation, documented from multiple angles. Very professional work." She paused, her finger hovering over the screen. "But I'm more interested in this reflection here." Karen's carefully constructed world began tilting like a ship in a storm. "Reflection. The one showing your hot tub." Diane's voice was calm, almost gentle, which somehow made it more terrifying. "The hot tub that's not mentioned anywhere in our permit records." The silence stretched between them like a tightrope Karen was about to fall from. She could hear her grandfather clock ticking in the hallway, each second marking another nail in the coffin of her HOA credibility. "I can explain," Karen began, but the words came out as barely a whisper. "I'm sure you can." Diane leaned forward. "But here's the thing, Karen. In your 18 months on the board, you've filed 47 violation notices. 47. That's more than the previous 3 board members combined." Karen felt her chest tightening. "I'm just thorough about maintaining community standards. You made the Hendersons remove their garden gnomes because they were 3 inches too tall. You fined Mrs. Peterson for hanging her Christmas lights 2 days before the approved date range. You even cited your own next-door neighbor for having grass that was a 1/4 inch too long." Each example hit Karen like a physical blow. She remembered every single citation, had been proud of her attention to detail. Diane continued, her voice gaining momentum. "And now I find out that our most vigilant board member has been hiding an unapproved hot tub for 3 weeks. Do you see the problem here? Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. The weight of her hypocrisy was crushing her chest, making it hard to breathe. I was going to file the paperwork, she stammered. I just wanted to make sure it was installed correctly first. For 3 weeks? Well, Karen. Diane's voice cut through her excuses like a sword through silk. I'm going to give you 2 choices. You can resign from the board voluntarily, or I can call an emergency meeting and let the other members vote on your removal after I share these photos with them. The room seemed to spin around Karen. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. She was the enforcer, not the violator. She was the one who maintained order, who kept their community pristine and valuable. There's a third option, Karen said suddenly, her voice steadying as a desperate plan formed in her mind. What if we handled this differently? Diane raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Mike's violation is legitimate. The color is wrong, and he didn't file the proper forms. If we let that slide, what message does that send? Karen's old confidence was creeping back, fueled by desperation and years of practice manipulating HOA regulations. But my situation, that's different. I'm a board member. I understand the process. I can fast-track my paperwork and have everything properly documented by tomorrow. Diane stared at her for a long moment. You're suggesting we enforce the rules selectively. I'm suggesting we use discretion, judge intent, not just technical violations. Karen was warming to her theme now, her inner lawyer awakening. Mike deliberately ignored proper procedures. I simply delayed filing paperwork while ensuring quality installation. The silence stretched again, but this time Karen felt less like she was drowning, and more like she was treading water. Diane's expression was unreadable, but she hadn't immediately rejected the proposal. Finally, Diane stood up. I need to think about this, Karen. This whole situation is unprecedented. As Diane headed for the door, she paused and looked back. But Karen, if I decide to move forward with Mike's violation hearing, I expect your hot tub paperwork to be filed and approved before that meeting happens. Are we clear? Karen nodded eagerly. Crystal clear. After Diane left, Karen sank into her chair, her heart still pounding. She'd bought herself time. But she wasn't out of the woods yet. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a nagging voice whispered that Mike Santos might not take this lying down, especially if he found out about her secret hot tub. She glanced out her window toward Mike's house. He was still floating in his pool, apparently without a care in the world. But something about his relaxed posture seemed almost calculated, like he was waiting for something. Karen shivered despite the warm afternoon sun streaming through her windows. The game was far from over, and she had the unsettling feeling that she might not be the only one playing it. Karen's hands trembled as she zoomed in on the photo she'd just taken. There, reflected in Mike's sliding glass door, was her own backyard and her brand new hot tub that she'd installed 3 weeks ago. The hot tub she'd deliberately positioned behind her garden shed to hide from the street view. The hot tub she'd never gotten approval for. Her mouth went dry as the desert. She'd been so focused on catching Mike's violation that she'd forgotten about her own secret addition. The irony hit her like a slap from a wet pool noodle. Mrs. Westbrook. Mike's voice drifted over from his pool. You feeling all right? You look like you've seen a ghost. Karen quickly stuffed her phone into her purse, her mind racing faster than a hamster on an espresso bender. She needed to get home and figure out how to handle this situation before anyone else noticed the reflection in her photos. This isn't over, Santos, she muttered, but her voice had lost its earlier conviction. She hurried back across the street, her manila folder clutched to her chest like armor that was rapidly losing its protective power. Back in her house, Karen spread the photos across her dining room table and examined each one with the intensity of a crime scene investigator. The hot tub was visible in 3 different shots, its chrome fixtures gleaming like tiny beacons of her hypocrisy. She picked up her phone to call HOA President Diane Fulton, then set it down again, then picked it up, then set it down. Her usual confidence was evaporating like steam from her secret hot tub. The doorbell rang, and Karen nearly jumped out of her skin. Through the peephole, she saw Diane herself standing on the porch, holding what looked suspiciously like Karen's own violation report from that morning. "Karen, honey, we need to talk," Diane called through the door. "I got your email about Mike's pool cover, but I think there might be a little problem." Karen's blood turned to ice water. Diane had clearly seen the photos. Her secret was out, and her reputation as the neighborhood's moral guardian was about to crumble faster than a sandcastle in a tsunami. She opened the door with a smile that felt like it was held together with thumbtacks and hope. "Diane, what a lovely surprise. Come in, come in." Karen's voice sounded artificially cheerful, even to her own ears. Diane stepped inside, her expression unreadable. She'd been HOA president for 5 years and had seen every possible violation, excuse, and cover-up attempt in the book. Her poker face was legendary. "Karen, I've looked at your photos of Mike's pool situation," Diane began, settling into the living room chair like a judge taking the bench. "They're very thorough, very revealing." Karen's palms started sweating. "Well, you know me. I believe in complete documentation." "Yes," Diane nodded slowly. "Complete documentation. That's exactly what we need to discuss."